Somewhere in your mouth right now, there are bacteria waiting for you to eat a beet. Not to harm you, to help you. Because the moment beetroot juice touches your tongue, it sets off a chain reaction that ends inside your blood vessels, changing how blood moves through your body for the next few hours. That much is real biology. What's exaggerated is almost everything you've heard about what it actually means. So let's separate the two. Beetroot has a strange reputation. Athletes drink it before races. People swear it lowers their blood pressure. Somewhere along the way, it picked up the label of a superfood, which is a term that means almost nothing scientifically. But underneath the hype, beetroot really is unusual for one specific reason. It's one of the richest ordinary dietary sources of a compound called nitrate. Nitrate is not something most people think about when they think about vegetables. It's a simple molecule made of nitrogen and oxygen, and beets absorb it from the soil in larger amounts than most other plants we eat. Leafy greens like spinach and arugula have plenty too, but beetroot has become the poster vegetable for this story, partly because of how concentrated it can be, and partly because it's easy to juice. Here's where it gets interesting. When you swallow that nitrate, your stomach doesn't do much with it directly. Most of it gets absorbed into your bloodstream, circulates through your body, and a portion of it ends up concentrated in your saliva. And this is the part almost nobody expects. It's your mouth, not your stomach, that does the real chemical work. Bacteria living on the surface of your tongue, particularly toward the back, use enzymes to convert that nitrate into a related molecule called nitrite. This isn't incidental. These bacteria have essentially built a niche around this reaction. Without them, most of that conversion simply doesn't happen efficiently. It's one of the more surprising examples of the human body relying on its resident microbes to complete a chemical pathway that our own cells can't easily perform. Once you swallow that nitrite-rich saliva, the story continues in the acidic environment of the stomach, where a portion of it converts further into nitric oxide, a gas that your own blood vessels also produce naturally. The remaining nitrite gets absorbed into the bloodstream, where it can be converted into nitric oxide in tissues throughout the body, especially in places where oxygen levels are low, like hardworking muscle. Nitric oxide is not some exotic beet chemical. It's a signaling molecule your body makes constantly, using it to communicate with the smooth muscle that lines your blood vessels. When nitric oxide reaches that muscle layer, it triggers relaxation, a process called vasodilation, which simply means the blood vessel widens. Picture a hose being gently loosened rather than squeezed. A wider vessel allows blood to move through with less resistance. This is where beetroot's reputation around blood pressure comes from, and the mechanism is real. But a real mechanism is not the same as a guaranteed outcome, so it's worth being precise about what research has actually shown. Multiple controlled studies have found that concentrated dietary nitrate, often delivered as beetroot juice, can modestly lower blood pressure in the hours afterward, with reductions in some trials in the range of just a few millimeters of mercury. That's a real measurable physiological effect. It is not a cure for hypertension. It is not a replacement for prescribed medication, and it does not mean every person who eats beetroot will notice a difference. Individual responses vary considerably, partly because not everyone's oral bacteria process nitrate the same way, and using antibacterial mouthwash has actually been shown to blunt the effect, since it kills off the very bacteria the pathway depends on. The blood flow side of this story extends beyond blood pressure readings. Because nitric oxide affects vascular tone throughout the body, researchers have also studied whether it can influence how efficiently oxygen is delivered to working muscles during exercise. Blood vessels are not static pipes. They're dynamic, constantly adjusting their diameter based on chemical signals, physical activity, temperature, and countless other inputs. Nitrate-driven nitric oxide is simply one more input in that ongoing negotiation. This is why beetroot juice has become popular in sports nutrition circles. Some studies, particularly involving concentrated nitrate doses, have found modest improvements in exercise efficiency, meaning the muscles use slightly less oxygen to produce the same amount of work. Other research has suggested potential benefits for endurance performance, but the effects tend to be more consistent in recreationally active people than in highly trained athletes whose bodies may already be operating near peak efficiency. Beetroot doesn't make someone stronger or faster on its own. At best, it offers a small physiological edge under specific conditions. It's also worth separating two very different things: eating a beet as part of a meal and drinking the concentrated nitrate shots used in laboratory studies. Research trials typically use standardized doses, carefully measured, and often far more concentrated than what you'd get from a normal serving of roasted or raw beetroot. That doesn't make the vegetable pointless. It just means the dramatic effects reported in some headlines usually reflect a controlled dose, not an ordinary dinner plate. Nitrate isn't the only compound giving beetroot its identity. The vegetable's deep crimson color comes from betalains, a family of pigments found in very few plants. Researchers have studied betalains for their antioxidant properties, though the evidence for meaningful health effects in humans is still developing, and this shouldn't turn into a story about beetroot being packed with miracle antioxidants. The real narrative here belongs to nitrate and blood vessels. Before we close, one memorable detail deserves mention. In some people, eating beetroot turns their urine, and occasionally their stool, a shade of pink or red. It's called beeturia, and the first time it happens, it can be genuinely alarming. But in the vast majority of cases, it's a harmless quirk caused by betalain pigments that some people's digestive systems don't fully break down. It has nothing to do with the nitrate story, and it fades within a day. So what does beetroot really do to your blood? It delivers nitrate that your own oral bacteria transform into nitrite, which your body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule already woven into how your blood vessels regulate themselves. That pathway can produce a modest, measurable widening of blood vessels, a small and inconsistent dip in blood pressure, and a possible efficiency boost during exercise. What it doesn't do is treat disease, replace medicine, or guarantee results for everyone who eats it. In the end, the beet sitting in your kitchen isn't a miracle. It's something arguably more interesting, an ordinary root vegetable that happens to plug directly into one of the body's own signaling systems, with a little help from bacteria you never knew you needed.